Greetings world. We are anonymous.
It seems like every day, millennials find new ways to feel unique and different. Special snowflake syndrome is running rampant, and with it comes the need to invent new things to make themselves stand out and out-oppress their peers. One of the ways this manifests itself is social justice warriors' obsession with gender and gender identity. Don't believe me? On Friday, March 4, 2016, a group of SJWs and feminists gathered outside the Railway Club in Vancouver, where a man named Augustus Invictus was scheduled to give a talk. He was stopped at the Canadian border and refused entry on the grounds that he has no legitimate reason to enter the country and will just cause trouble. Internet-famous journalist Lauren Southern was on the scene, where she got into an argument with some of the feminists, and made a mistake of saying the word "sorry guy." But there are only two genders. Moments later, she was drenched in urine by one of the feminists, who seemed to have taken offense at her statement. Social justice warriors want to be special, and they will attack anyone who tries to make them face reality. Luckily, science and human biology does not care about people's feelings. You can live in your childish delusions all you want, but at the end of the day, you are either male or female. Period. But what about transgender individuals? This is how social justice warriors usually reply. This one is always a fun one to deal with, because by implying that there are more than two genders because transgender people exist, they are pretty much admitting to themselves that they don't think trans women are real women or that trans men are real men. After all, if people are whatever gender they have transitioned to, then how exactly does that break the gender binary? Whether you are one of those people who believe that people are whatever gender they transition into, or you are one of those who think people are whatever they are born as, and that changing your gender is impossible, the point still stands. At the end of the day, that person is still either male or female. But gender is whatever you identify as. Nonsense. If gender is whatever you identify as, then gender is irrelevant and nonsensical. We have yet to hear a good reason why what someone identifies as is relevant or important in any way. In a debate about the existence of God, if a theist states that he identifies as God, does that mean he is God and God is now real? If a student identifies as someone who graduated summa cum laude, is the university obligated to give him that honor? This type of thinking isn't permitted in any other form of discourse, so why would we permit it here? Gender is a social construct. Incorrect. Gender is entirely biological and based on genetics. You might be thinking of gender roles, which are something completely different. If your counter-argument here is to inform you that gender differs from sex, I don't have to necessarily disagree with you to tell you why you're wrong. Fair enough. Let's say that the current definition proposed by certain social scientists is true, and that sex is whatever is between your pants and gender is what is in your brain / what gender you feel like. At the end of the day, your genitals aren't a social construct, and neither are your brain waves. Yes, sex is biological, and yes, gender is also biological. Stop confusing gender with gender roles. But gender is a spectrum. When you hear this argument from a social justice warrior, it means he or she has reached their endgame. This is the last cry of someone who knows they are losing a battle. We do not agree that gender is a spectrum, but the current consensus in neuroscience is that it is. So let's go with that. We couldn't care less, because our point stands either way. To suggest that there are more than two genders because gender exists in a spectrum is outrageous. Consider this. Feelings exist in a spectrum. You could feel sorry, ashamed, angry, happy, sad, etc. And each of these feelings exist in a spectrum. How happy you are about winning $5,000 in the lottery would be observably happier than if you only won $50. Being hit on your head by a falling fruit would make you angry, as would someone stealing your car. But one would make you measurably angrier. which we are guessing would be the stolen car. To suggest that the anger you feel when you get hit on the head by a fruit isn't really anger because it's not as intense as the anger you feel over your stolen car is just poor logic. The anger from the falling fruit isn't a different type of feeling. It's just an already existing feeling at a different intensity. Similarly, height exists in a spectrum. There are tall people who are 5'9", 6'0", 6'1", 6'2". All of these are tall people. You do not have to invent a new height name for every one of these different tall heights. Mega tall, ultra tall, super tall, bio tall. We can actually imagine a social justice warrior doing this. Nobody has the time to memorize whatever special name you have invented for your unique brand of tallness. Even if we had the time, we wouldn't want to. What am I trying to say here, then? Just because you stray a little from the traditional norms of masculinity or femininity doesn't make you another gender. It just makes you one of the two genders with a few distinctions. A man who loves to wear pink isn't a non-binary demi-boy or a pink transgender boy. He's just a man who likes pink. Same goes for women. No matter what side of the male or female spectrum you are still either male or female. A feminine man isn't a new gender. He's just a man who has some feminine qualities. Stop trying to make yourself feel special. You aren't.